Hi, everyone. Welcome to part 3 in a 3-part series, Well-Being Around the World. This show features, and I'm welcoming Karin, Dahl, and Aase Porsmose, Eden Alternative Regional Coordinators from Denmark, representing Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. And they share responsibility for Norway with Ranveig, and I'm not going to try this one. Go ahead, Aase. You can tell me Ranveig's last name, please.
Gudnadottir.
Thank you. From Iceland.
Yes.
I worked so hard on your names, and I couldn't get Ranveig. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ranveig, for forgiving that. For our audience, if you have questions throughout the show, please put them in the chat box, and we'll try to get to all of them. Today, we're going to focus on 2 of the Eden Alternative domains of well-being, growth, and joy. And before we get started on this, I'm sure everyone is curious to learn more about the care system in Denmark and how you're doing through the pandemic. But let's start with, how are you? How are you, Karin and Aase? How are you guys?
Oh, thank you, Kathy. We are fine.
Good. And Karin?
I'm fine as well. Thank you
so
much. Yes.
We have been very lucky through the pandemic. None of us have had COVID, so we are lucky.
Good. Very good.
And we are vaccinated, both of us. Fully vaccinated.
Very good. Yes, very good. That's so good to hear. And the one fascinating thing that there are many fascinating things about both of you. And one of them is that you both speak several languages. How many languages do you speak, Karin?
Oh, not so. If you say speak, like I'm speaking English, not many more. But I understand a bit of German. I understand very little French, and I understand Swedish. I understand Norwegian, and I understand a little bit of the Icelandic language. But it's because it contains some of our phrases as well. But I cannot at all speak it. I just smile when they speak together, the Icelandic people.
Very hard.
Yeah.
And Aase, do you speak Icelandic?
Oh, no, I can say some sentences, but they are not, they are a little naughty, so I don't want to do it. but I speak German. This is my Danish, of course, and the different Danish dialects I know, but German is my second language and English is my third language. Then I understand a little Dutch because I have a daughter living in the Netherlands, and I understand a little Swedish and Nordish, but I really don't speak it. I understand what they say.
Well, you both speak English very well, very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to have that, because most Americans only speak English, and you're aware of that. What would you like the world to know about Denmark?
Oh, well, Denmark is a very small country. You have a map you can show, Kathy. We are about almost nearly 6 million people living here. You can see our square meters, 43.5 square kilometers. And we have, what is interesting with this little red country, you can see in this European map, is that we have a very long coastline. So about 4,544 miles, I have just calculated this afternoon.
Yeah.
We are a monarchy. We have a queen called Queen Margrethe II, and we have a female prime minister, Mette Frederiksen. She's a Democrat, and she has in her own way, and some like it and some do not like it, led us safely through this pandemic, I think.
And she is our second female.
I think that my streaming was causing some causing some challenges with the internet. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can hear you, Kathy. Just
Hey
say.
everybody, this is
I'm
Meredith.
having
I'm going to
technical
jump in and
difficulty.
join you guys. We may, she may not be able to hear us. We can hear you, Kathy.
Mm,
Oh, you can. Okay, good. Now I can hear
yes.
you. Great. Thank you.
Mm,
Sorry.
I can hear you too now.
All right. So,
yeah.
okay, good. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you so much. What is happening with the pandemic in your region?
Right now,
Like,
it is under control. We can say it's under control. We have had 2 waves until now, broken by a period where we didn't have many restrictions, only when we took the public transportation and or went to the theater, we should wear masks until we sat down in our seats, for example.
We
But
couldn't sing in the church.
we couldn't sing in the church, but that was when it was hard.
Bad, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Last spring, just like the rest of the world, we were had a hard lockdown, and then it came back. It ended before the summer or in the beginning of the summer, and then we went back with a lockdown, not as hard as the first one, but again in December 2020. But we have been very lucky with a big number of vaccinations. And due to our culture, I think a lot of people have trust in the vaccinations. And by now, we have about almost 75% of all Danes have been fully vaccinated with 2 vaccines. And they are pushing through for the 3rd vaccination, refreshment vaccination, they call it. And right now, it's our nursing home residents that are offered the 3rd vaccination to protect them from being caught by this 3rd wave of COVID. So, and we have right now, even though we have in between a little increasing number of people will tested positive for COVID every day, it is nothing alarming. So no one says right now that we have to go back to the very hard restrictions, and that is very satisfying. So right now we are hopeful and hope this will continue. But we can, I think we can thank our cultural trust in our system, in our authorities, that this is bigger than the people being skeptical and not feeling safe about these products. We are more feeling safe about it than people being skeptical. So in that way, it's a benefit for our society.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I live, I think 2 miles away from Germany, and they have still restrictions. When I go there and I go into when I go shopping, I have to wear mask. You can't you can't just go into or a restaurant or something. You have to wear mask in Germany.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's great.
Mm.
Well, it's great and it's not, right? So yeah, well, your country fared very well as far as people not, you had very few deaths and you.
Yes. Only
You did very well, right?
2,665 persons. I checked the numbers yesterday. Only 2,665 persons have died through this whole period. And I have no numbers of how many have been hospitalized, but it is among the people being so ill from COVID that they needed hospitalization. We find the people, about 10% of those who suffer from the late follow systems, no, symptoms, not systems, symptoms from the disease.
What they call
And the
long
persons
COVID.
in the hospitals now, it is persons not vaccinated, most of them.
And younger persons.
Younger persons and not vaccinated, yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's move to well-being through this. So how do the Eden alternative domains of well-being resonate in your part of the world, in Denmark?
Will you?
Yeah, I could. Well, we in Denmark we have known the well-being domains for many years and have used them, and we have known them because of Tom Kitwood and all his social and what's
psychology,
that called?
social psychology.
So you know all the things, and what we do when we educates in Eden Alternative is that we are telling about them, but they are not our focus only. It is, I know it's not your focus only too, but our focus is on the 10 principles. And when we educate, we talk about the well-being domains as the result of the culture transformation. And when we talk about, you can hear some stories afterwards. And when we talk about the well-being domains, I think, and we have talked about it, that when we see them without the culture transformation, they are not so deep as if when our homes, our registered homes, where the transformation is ongoing, we can see a deeper impact of the well-being domains. Was that clear, Karin? Was that?
Yeah, I think that was fine.
It was.
I think we can say that the Eden Alternative domains of well-being, they supply Tom Kitwood's social psychology and his flower. He worked with dementia care, Rain Strøbel from South Africa, which talked on the first show. The second show, Rain talked. He mentioned Tom Kitwood, the late Tom Kitwood, and I think that the Eden Alternative domains of well-being supply Tom Kitwood's
positive
areas,
social.
positive social psychologist areas with growth and then the joy. That is the way I see a little difference. You have added something to supply what Tom Kitwood had described for us, and we have been inspired for him in dementia care for, as also said, many years.
Many years.
So in that way, we have experienced in Denmark that the need in Denmark have been to focus on the Eden Alternative and the 10 principles, to use them as the innovative method to get away from the institutional culture towards people living in their own home. And I think this falls so well in our country because we at the same time for many years now have had a legislation that supports that even though you are visited to move into a nursing home flat, and in Denmark we have flats for each and every resident, you still will meet in most nursing homes, you still will meet a culture which was growing during the corona and the hard closure with restrictions of corona, the medical way of giving care, because we needed under COVID to protect the people and the residents from getting ill.
They went a little away from the home thinking. And
we need to move away from that because we haven't been able fully to implement Tom Kitwood's social psychology in the right way. And Tom Kitwood referred in the book we uses in Denmark to the needed culture transformation to make his ideas work fully. So that is why we see the Eden Alternative being so well used in our country, because it brings what is asked for also by Tom Kitwood to make his principles for a life worth living for people living with dementia. So in that way, they are complementary. They supply each other very, very greatly.
But I think it's good that we have only 7 in the Eden Alternative. Tom Kitwood has 12 and 17 not positive, non-positive. So we have only 7, and I think that is fantastic. And when people learn about them, I think it's easier to work with 7 than to work with 12 or 17. So, and in his flower, he has 5 Tom Kitwood. That's right. But the 7 we have in Eden Alternative is a good. It's a good way to see a fully lived life. This to the well-being, and in Denmark, we can say it's nearly the same as happiness, well-being. We have a lot of well-being in Denmark.
So do you have any stories of how you're using the well-being? How do you use the Eden Alternative 7 domains of well-being to help people through the challenging times? You're saying you're using them. How are you doing that? Do you have a story to tell us?
We have several stories, but the way we use them in Denmark is to be discovered, to be followed from out working with the culture in your nursing home or your organization, and see it as a result, and feel the higher level of well-being in total when you have changed the culture from the medical to the more home-like culture where people live when they need more care. And for example, one of the persons participating, we had a visit from Al Power, Dr. Al Power, who have written the 2 books, and the second one he had published, and we have just had it translated and presented in Denmark. Also, you can remember the title in English, can't you?
Oh, Dementia Beyond Disease.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Yes, and he has written it in 2015, and now it has been translated into Danish, and we have just published it.
Yes.
Together with the publisher.
So we had Al Power in Denmark in 2013 and 2014, and one of the examples of how growth, for example, was registered by a leader participating in one of those trainings. She chose a case during the training and told us about a man living with a severe addiction, and his behavior in everyday life was not good. He was a challenge to be around. He was disturbing everyday life, and his movements, his way of speaking, it was threatening. So both leader and staff members were kind of scared of him. And participating in Al Power's training, she suddenly got aware that by having the inside information about these 7 domains of well-being, and the focus about not only have eyes for the tasks and doing all the time, like you are hired in your job to do and get the stuff fixed and your tasks fixed, then you need to be together with these persons. You need to become well known with these persons. You need to learn their identity. You need to support them in their own identity to make them feel safe in the place they now live and stay. And she realized that she needed to change her view of how to cooperate with this man. And she managed, after the training with Al Power, to change her own behavior together with this person, and she empowered the rest of the staff members in that nursing home to feel safe also when they were together with this person who, before that training, really was an annoyment in that house. So that is a very great example that both the leader and later the staff members, and even though the man himself grew from out the changes, from out making the focus on these 7 domains of well-being.
That is amazing. That's a wonderful story. It's so great. And Rain, you talked about Rain's show last time. He has very strong feelings about the domains of well-being not being any particular order. Do you have strong feelings about that too?
Oh yes, we don't
Yes.
think they are in a particular order. We think everyone is in everyone. It's put into the same pot,
Yeah.
because you can talk about joy, you can talk about meaning, you can talk about them all, and you can put everything into them. In joy, you can put meaning, autonomy, identity, security, growth, everything, connectedness. And in connectedness, you can put everything into. It is so important to see them in the same pot, because I think we can only have them apart when we educate.
Yeah.
When we educate, we can talk about them. But when we experience them, we have to experience them all.
Yeah.
I think.
And
I think
a
that's
great
very-
example on this, when we prepared for this show, I was back and looking at the presentations we have given with different international conferences, and this example with this leader and the man with that behavior, I have in a previous presentation talked about that story and that example from out security. And when I read the story and the description again today, I thought, well, today Åsa and I have chosen that I speak about growth and Åsa will speak about joy. And this is growth. This is growth for everybody. So in that way, at that earlier presentation, we saw it, and Marianne, the leader, saw it really as a change in the level of feeling secure in the everyday life in that nursing home. But right now, looking back at this experience, for me, it is so clear that this is also about growing and understanding one another in a much better way when you become well known. And well known is the basic layer of both having the Eden Alternative 10 principles, the vision, the mission at your site to create a local vision and mission, and then the 7 domains of well-being. You cannot support those without being well known with one another in a community.
No, and you can put joy into it, into your story. You can put everything into connectedness. Everything can you put into it. And I think that's a fantastic thing about the well-being domain. You don't have to look at it one and one and one. You have to look at it as a combined packet.
Every example, you can find a little of
A
all
little
the
of
domains.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. So I'm going to have you focus down on the 2 domains that we're going to talk about now, okay? So on a deeper level, we're looking at growth and joy. So starting with growth, how do you help people define growth for people of later years?
What we focus on during our trainings, and our trainings are primarily the Eden Alternative 3 days certifying training. And when we speak about growth as one of the 7 domains of well-being, we also refer, for example, to the ageism and the ableism that is a big part of the culture in mainly, typically, I think the Western dominated world, Westernly, is that the right way to say it? You know, our Western culture,
Yes.
we have a tendency to love youth, to love ourselves looking great. We shall not have the sparkles. We need to look great. We are not. We are afraid of looking older and older, even though becoming older really shows the world that you are becoming slowly a more and more wise person, which have a lot to offer to everyone that's around that single person. So looking at growth, you can say that growth comes from out your life experiences and all the knowledge that you have built up through your life. And you grow by participating in the everyday life, but you need to feel welcome, you need to feel connected, you need to feel trustful, you need to feel you need to have your own identity supported if you are suffering from some kind of disease which have damaged your brain. Um, and it needs to be meaningful. You need to experience being part of a community where you have a role, where you are. It's necessary for this community that you are an important person that brings joy or special jobs being done because you are a part of that, and that everyone gets happy because you do what you do as a single person. In that way, it is possible to make people who have experienced previously in their lives that their abilities lowered because they became ill, they had an accident, or whatever led to them being hospitalized or having home care for several hours and several times in everyday life. And then they de is that the right way to say it? They de-learn. They if you have more and more
Mhm.
people to help you, they unlearn how to do every normal single stuff we do every day in our own lives. So moving into a nursing home, making it who which makes it's understand how to reboot. I don't know if that gives meaning.
That's good.
To reboot your abilities to do very normal things by yourself if your disabilities allows you to still do them, but you have just been put, you have been uh, slower down in um, in participating in them yourself. Then you can grow and start doing things by yourself again. And I have a wonderful, if we can have that small story as an example of that. We
Sure.
we became familiar with a story several years ago when we um, had a huge project here in Denmark, and a very elderly lady moved into a nursing home after a long period where she waited in two different places after an acute period in a hospital. Uh, and she she went so ill and was both family and staff members around her sort of her as dying at that time of when she moved into this nursing home where she ended up living for at least 10 years. What happened was when she entered that nursing home, her flat was laying just opposite the kitchen, and she could smell every cooking that was being done over the stove. And her son described it for us when we evaluated that Eden project, that he felt like that's all the fantastic smells that reminded her of how much she had been cooking in her own life, made her curious, and she wanted to rise from the bed, and she started to take part in cooking again, and uh, uh, doing the tables, uh, and really take part in everyday life. And when we spoke to him, it was almost 10 years later, and they thought she was dying when she moved into that nursing home. So she
Amazing.
really grew by moving into a very homely and normal atmosphere instead of living in a hospitalized atmosphere where
Exactly.
people are sweet and kind and but very professional because that's their job in a hospital.
It's a good system, but not. I'm sorry. It's a bad system with good people, right? Good people in
Fantastic,
the
yes, but for well-being, it is not. You need a good health to be in a hospital. You need to have good health to be in a hospital, especially if you need to stay there for a longer period. You really need also in hospitals to build up deep relations between special staff members and then the family involved. If I think of ill children or severe ill people suffering from cancer or anything like that, where you really go through tough treatments. to feel safe in that kind of environment and period in your life, you really need relationships.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's so important, and that's been lacking, right? In some communities, that they've been lacking the relationships, and what we teach is to build those relationships, and that will help.
Exactly, the connectedness. Yeah.
Osa?
Yeah, about joy. When we teach about
or growth. It doesn't matter.
Growth. Well, I could say something about growth, but it is into joy. Growth is into joy too, because when we educate in joy, we say, okay, joy is not only to be happy. It's not only to laugh. It's not only to have fun. It is a condition deep inside you. And I have a fantastic story too from one of our registered homes, and I really think it is because they are a registered home, because they have been working with this cultural transformation. A 93-year-old lady lived there in the same island as Karin lived in Fyn, and her daughter was very ill. She lived in Copenhagen, our capital. I think it's about 200 kilometers.
Almost, yeah.
Almost. And it takes 2.5 hours in a car. And she was living in this nursing home. She was very frail, physical. But the staff members and the nursing home leader knew that her daughter was very ill. She lived in a hospice now. She was ill from cancer. And they asked her if she would like to visit her daughter. She hadn't been visiting her daughter for years because she had been so frail. It wasn't possible for her. But they asked her if she wanted to go there, and they offered her to drive together with her. They would drive the car, and they would help her coming into the hospice, and they would go for a walk, and she could call when she had said goodbye to her daughter. And she accepted it. She really wanted to do that. They went to Copenhagen. The lady came into the hospice, and the staff members thought, well, maybe it'll take, 3/4 of an hour or an hour. That would then she probably would go home again. And they went to a zoo nearby, and it was very cold. It was in the winter, and they thought, we only have to walk here for a little hour. But it took 4 hours before the lady called them and said now she wanted to go home. And she had told her daughter she loved her, and they had said goodbye to each other, and they went home. And that is a fantastic joy for this lady. Otherwise, she was very sorry because she mourned, and it was terrible that her daughter had to die. But the fact that she was able to visit her and say goodbye made her so happy. And that I think that is the inside joy. And that's not the only thing, because a short time after the daughter died, and then she was offered the possibility to participate in her funeral. And she said yes again, and they took the same trip. 2 staff members together with the lady. They went to a church in Copenhagen, were there through the funeral, and afterwards the family invited to coffee, and that is very normal in Denmark that we make. Right. I don't know what you call it. Is it funeral memorial or something? I don't know what it is, but we do that in Denmark. It's our culture, yeah. And she really liked that, because it should be in the flat, her daughter's flat, where she had never been. She had never been in that flat because she was old and frail and couldn't come there. It was on the 2nd floor. And she was not able to walk up there, but the 2 staff members, they made a chair of their hands, and they carried her upside. And she was there and had her coffee together with the family, and then they could drive home again. And the joy that this was possible was so big in her sorrow. So I think you can have the joy. It's not, you don't, it doesn't have to be a happy thing only. It's a deeper thing inside you. It's a condition that you feel very, very well because you have been able to say goodbye to your daughter. You have been able to follow her last journey in the church. So that's a way to look at joy too, I think.
It's also a great way to see the difference between joy and happiness, right?
Yeah.
Because it certainly wasn't a happy experience, but it was joyful in that she was able to be there and be a part of that.
Be a part of that. She had never thought it could be possible because she lived in this nursing home. And I really think the staff members there, the nursing home leader there, they really have learned so much from the cultural transformation they have been through, that this was so easy for them to do.
So natural.
Yeah, so a natural thing for them to do. So that is fantastic, and that is the deep condition inside of joy. You can have joy from outside too. We have many stories about that too, but the deep condition is really, really good.
Yeah. And Denise Hyde is telling us she's restating what we were talking about. Joy is not just a happy thing; it's deeper.
No. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you can say about joy. We during our trainings we describe joy as a needed basic thing that grows inside you when also all the other domains of well-being are rising. When you create all the antidotes to loneliness, helplessness, and boredom. So that is how we see those two things being so deeply depending on each other, that you have the focus on everyone else to make well-being rise.
Yeah, it must be all the well-being domains.
All the well-being
it's not
domains.
only joy, it's them all, because all of them are deeper than the thing you just think about it. It's much deeper.
But you can see joy as I compare it often to understand this deep level of joy like petrol on a car. You need a car, a traditional car, not before the electrician cars.
Yes.
You need petrol on the car to go on. And if your level of this deep feeling of joy and feeling well, experience this.
Yeah, but experience the meaning too, Karin.
The meaning,
and
exactly.
Growth
Yeah,
and
it contains.
Yes, you have to have
everything.
them. Yes, you have to have them all. Yeah.
It leads to fill this sum of joy, because that is what you go on. You drive your function as a human being from this blessing of joy inside you. This amount of joy inside you.
but I really think still we have to say it, the meaning, the growth, the autonomy, the identity, everything has to be there too, because
yes, I totally agree.
It's everything. It is all the 7 well-being domains.
Yes, thank you. And there they are, the domains of being, identity, connectedness, autonomy, security, meaning, growth,
and joy. And you could put everyone in every story about the well-being.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. The connectedness, the woman and her daughter, and the woman and the staff
and her family.
I mean, perfect. Yeah.
And identity, I'm the mother. And I'm your grandmother, and I'm your and the meaning, it gives totally meaning to go to a funeral when a person has died. All the things, the security that the staff members are there, the autonomy, you can go there or you can not go there. She decided herself that she could do it. So you have so many of the well-being domains you have
Yeah.
all 7
represented, yes. And
represented.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most important things about the well-being domains. When we educate, you can have them apart, but when you have a full life, when you live a full life, you need them, all of them.
Yes. And I want to stick with joy for a little bit longer, because I know that that joy and happiness are not the same. And I want to talk a little bit about Denmark, hearing that Denmark is one of the happiest places on earth. And
Yes.
you told me about this book, a little book of
Yeah.
Yes.
I have it here.
You have it, yes, and it's so good. And
Yeah.
it just talks about, I mean, there's so many ideas in here to find joy. Even though joy and happiness aren't the same, you can find joy in here. And there's little ideas. And when you were talking about getting coffee, I had just finished the part in here about how getting coffee is very Denmark, right?
Yeah, it is.
You even have coffee hygge or something like
Yes,
that.
we have. We always have to have coffee and have something to eat. That is very important in Denmark. And then we have a candle, and we sit inside when the weather is not good, when it is raining or storming. We sit inside and we say, "Oh, it is hyggeligt." And happiness. I think happiness is really about all the well-being too, but happiness can be seen as a very fast thing and a very deep thing. You can be happy for a moment, and you can be deep happy for a lifelong, and that, I think, depends upon how deep your well-being domains are in your life, and how in Denmark, we are very happy because we have so much trust to our country. As Karin told you first, about our trust to our health,
leaders and our healthcare system.
Our healthcare system, our ministries, and all we have. And our police department, we have really big trust to these people, and we have trust to the people near us. We have trust to the people around us, and that is, I think, very important for this happiness that we feel in Denmark. It's a condition, I think, when it's deep enough.
When you sit alone with your coffee, like Aase described, you feel safe. You feel safe and happy, and you are hopefully surrounded by people you love.
By people,
and or know where they are if you are not together with them. So in that way, you can feel safe and happy and cozy, and this is good. Life is good right now.
Life is good, Our welfare system is very, very good, and that makes us feel so secure. We are sure that we can be handled when we are sick. We can go to the hospital. We can go to a doctor. When something happens to us, we can call the police. That means a lot for us, that it is so. And we use a lot of money. Our social system is very good too, because we help each other, and it's built on, what is that called, Karin? Solidarity. Solidarity
and our tax payments.
Trust. We want to help each other. We have a good democracy. We have 10 different political parties that we can vote on. 4 of them red, 1 red and blue, and 5 blue. So it's a lot of.
It's a little different from US.
From US, you only have 2, isn't it?
Yeah, and the colors are opposite.
And the colors are opposite.
Isn't the Democrats in US blue?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's opposite in Denmark.
Yeah. Opposite colors. Yeah.
The blue in Denmark are right.
So we have many different. We can choose many different political parties between them. So that is fantastic too. We have many choices, and we like our freedom in Denmark. We like to be free. We like to be able to do what we like to do, not to be questioned about it. And if you look up of all these things, it's well-being. It's all the well-being domains. You can you can say. They mean so much for our feeling of the deep happiness, not the fast, flyktige.
Yeah.
I don't know what's. I can
The
see it.
fluent, the ups and
fluent.
downs happiness,
Yes.
a short
Yes.
second. Yeah,
Uh,
you feel happy,
yeah.
and then
Fast find
you're
it.
back to a lower basic. Yeah.
It's
The
deeper, long-standing,
fleeting. The fleeting.
not fleeting. Yes,
Yeah,
there's
the
both.
fleeting.
You're right. Yeah. Okay, good.
I have a dictionary.
And you were talking about your social system, and I'm sure people are curious about your nursing homes and elder care. That is all taken care of as part of the social system. Is that correct?
Yes, the most of them. We have a tendency, right, during the last decades that we also people can choose between private financed nursing homes, owners that but they still, these private organizations that have nursing homes as well as other offers, they still have to do it in a collaboration with the municipality within they are. So it is the so-called visitators who says, yes, you are having needs high enough so that you should have one of the flats in one of our nursing homes, and you can choose which one it must be. But are you so ill that you are hospitalized when you are visited to a nursing home flat, you need to take the place you are presented for, because you cannot take a place in the hospital. That is how our system works. So at the same time, as Åsa says, we are a free person. When you get dependent on help, you can feel that in between this free choice, it becomes more narrow. And because we need to have some kind of control over our system and not use too many money, the whole big business, Denmark, public funded mostly, and of course privately as well, with businesses and everything, the total sum of Denmark still must go around. And that is what our government makes sure of. But in that way we have, and that has disturbed a lot of us as professionals, the new public management system that has been rolling in over our care systems, with a lot of demands of documentation, the lot of demands of quality controls, all that stuff, when you talk about new public management. And this way of manage everyday life also in a nursing home, that contains a risk of a higher level of loneliness, helplessness, and boredom, because the staff's time for being together with people will be reduced remarkably. And because they need to turn themselves onto the computer to document each and every small detail they do together with a resident. That is a huge frustration level right now in Danish nursing homes.
And we need people. We don't have people enough to take the jobs. So that is not good.
I think that's common around the world, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. We hear it from everyone.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Denise Hyde.
Yes.
She says, you can be happy for a moment and deep happy for a lifetime. Do you think that personality or outlook on life plays into our ability to have this deep happiness?
Yes.
Yes, we think that, and all the research shows that too. The research about happiness shows that it depends upon who you are and where you live, and how you look at life. Of course, that has influence too on the deep happiness.
And when you ask that question, Denise, thank you for that. I comes to think about the example Rain Strøbel gave under his show, where he told about this young man coming from a very poor area of Stone Town, getting into work. And if Rain looked at his conditions, life conditions, they were so poor. But even though he came to work being the happiest man on earth, almost. That was how I heard Rain describe that. So if you have a fundamental way, if you have love, if you have connections, relations in your life, if you feel placed in the right time and the right place, if everything comes together, it's not necessary things and stuffs that makes us happy. It is much more the people we are surrounded by, how we are able to take part in life, even though life sometimes sucks and we can be frustrated in between. We can also be happy and grab the hope and pull ourselves up together with the ones that loves you, so that you can make life functioning and richness, is that the right word? Doesn't make you a happy person necessary.
No.
No.
It is our relations. It's our health. It's what we earn of money. It's our job, our purpose, and our freedom. It stands in this little book. So when you come to 274, Kathy, you can read about it in this little book. Yeah.
So
we agree with you, Denise. It depends upon a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time, and I wish we could talk forever. I love chatting with the two of you. You are dear friends to me. I just can't even tell you how much I love you guys.
Likewise.
Thank you. Yes, the same to you.
And Denise and Meredith.
And Denise and Meredith. And
fantastic
all
persons.
And all the Eden home office.
Yes. So this is the last of our 3-part series of well-being around the world. And I hope that everyone's enjoyed learning about other cultures and how the Eden alternative domains of well-being are implemented in other parts of the world. And again, thank you guys. Thank you both. We appreciate you being on.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
for having us.
welcome.